From Church Militant Studios, this is the Church Militant Evening News.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this Tuesday, February 21st, one day shy of Ash Wednesday. I'm Hunter Bradford, along with James Feedwick here with Catholic News and Context on the cusp of Lent. A note before we get started, though, stick around immediately after this show for a special production, Vilified. CM in the news, you won't want to miss it. But tonight, more on the suspect apprehended in the case of a murdered auxiliary bishop. And this prelate is calling out Cardinal McElroy for his outrageous stance on sexuality. And Red Rose rescuers appeared in court today for trying to save babies.
All right, and leading us off tonight, Vatican officials released new clarifications for the implementation of Pope Francis's 2021 Motu Proprio Traditionis Custodes. According to the new revisions, bishops must receive approval from the Holy See for the use of parish churches and the possibility of establishing personal parishes for groups celebrating according to the 1962 Missal, and the use of the 1962 Missal by priests who were ordained after July 16, 2021. Critics complain the restrictions seem to contradict Traditionis Custodes itself, the very document they're supposed to be clarifying.
Joining us now to dive into the new liturgical update from the Vatican is Church Militant reporter Nick Wiley. Nick, good to see you.
Thanks, Hunter. Yeah, the Vatican's liturgical madness and confusion are once again, making headlines. So I want to begin with a quote from the Pope's original document, Traditionis Custodes. So Article 2 of Traditionis Custodes states, it belongs to the diocesan bishop as moderator, promoter, and guardian of the whole liturgical life of his particular church, entrusted to him to regulate the liturgical celebrations of his diocese. Therefore, it is his exclusive competence to authorize the use of the 1962 Missal in his diocese, according to the guidelines of the Apostolic See. But now the Vatican releases a clarification that says only the Holy See, not the bishop, can approve the use of parish churches and the possibility of establishing personal parishes for groups celebrating according to the 1962 Missal, and the use of the 1962 Missal by priests who were ordained after 16 July 2021.
So basically, they used to be able to go to their bishop because he was, quote, the exclusive moderator, which is pretty strong language, but now it has to go to the Vatican, which means, at least to me, it's going to take a lot more time for these approvals or denials to come in.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So it's all nonsense. And one tweet that I saw really summed things up perfectly. It's from a Dominican priest who said, I get that the Holy See gets to govern the church, but it would be helpful if they would at least pretend to have a consistent rationale. If the Holy See is the moderator of the liturgical life of a diocese, then say that. If it is the diocesan bishop, then say that. So my question is, does the bishop have real power, or is he just a puppet of the Holy See? To use a word loved by the Pope, why is the Vatican being so rigid when it comes to the TLM, even when the bishop deems it good for his people? Why are we not being a listening, welcoming, merciful church when it comes to those who love the Latin Mass? Where is the synodality in all this? Those are some real questions that we need answers to.
That's true. I mean, obviously we have to state that the Pope does have the authority to touch these things, and that this doesn't constitute a good reason to leave the church. That may be obvious to some, but to others, I can already hear the SSPX crowd arguing, hey, this is just another reason why the SSPX and going to a beautiful Latin Mass of the SSPX is all the more reasonable, but that doesn't constitute a good reason for schism. And all the questions, Nick, that you just asked likely, unfortunately, won't get answered, which is ironic considering how much the leaders of the church go on and on about dialogue. But yes, those are good questions. Nick, thank you for your time today.
God bless.
You too.
All right. A new update in the murder of Los Angeles Auxiliary Bishop David O'Connell. At a press conference yesterday evening, the head of Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, Robert Luna, announced the arrest of 65-year-old Carlos Medina, the husband of Bishop O'Connell's housekeeper. The tipster who called the sheriff's office said suspicious of Medina as he was acting strangely and making comments about the bishop owing him money. The sheriff told those at the press conference the suspect had previously done work at the bishop's residence. 2 guns were also found at the scene, possibly linking Medina to the crime. But forensic analysis still needs to be done.
Another U.S. prelate is blasting San Diego's heterodox cardinal for his controversial ideas on sexuality. Illinois Bishop Thomas Paparaki released an article yesterday responding to Cardinal Robert McElroy's recent interviews on sexuality and the sacraments. McElroy claimed that the church should be more inclusive and not be so harsh in condemning sexual sins. Bishop Paparaki wrote, Cardinal McElroy misdiagnoses the situation in stating the church is too focused on sexual things. The church is concerned with all grave sin that violates the 10 Commandments.
And at 9 a.m. this morning, the trial for 6 Red Rose rescuers began here in Michigan. Back in April 2022, 6 pro-lifers participated in a Red Rose rescue, even entering into the abortuary to help women choose life. Several were allegedly physically assaulted by a police officer while all were arrested. They face 3 charges: trespassing, interference with a business, and obstruction of an officer. Dr. Monica Miller, one of the co-founders of Red Rose Rescue and one of the 6 on trial this morning, talked to Church Militant last year about the purpose of Red Rose events.
Our mission is to bring a light into what is really the darkest place on earth.
And a Catholic advocacy group is running a campaign on worthy reception of the Holy Eucharist. Catholic Action for Faith and Family is sending a copy of Cardinal Raymond Burke's book, Deny Holy Communion, to all 41,000 clergy members in the United States. The book's cover reads, "What did St. Paul mean by eating the bread of the Lord and drinking the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner?" This while most of America's prelates continue to allow openly pro-abortion sham Catholic politicians to receive the Eucharist. When we come back, Project Veritas is going through some major internal drama, and that's to say the least. And St. Patrick would be extremely disappointed in Ireland's treatment of Catholics. Stay tuned, all that and more up next.
Thank you for watching the first half of Church Militant Evening News.
If you would like to watch the rest of today's episode, please click the link in the description, and we'll see you at churchmilitant.com. God love you.